Have you ever felt it? That quiet shift in someone's energy. No warning, no explanation. One day they're all in, talking to you, showing up, making time, and then suddenly, they're not. It's subtle at first, a delay in their reply, a colder tone, less eye contact, shorter calls, fewer questions. You sense it, but you can't quite name it. This isn't just change, this is a reveal. People don't wake up different, they just stop pretending. The mask slips, and the truth starts to leak out. It's like your favorite song suddenly feeling off, like a warm hoodie that no longer fits the same. Something's changed, and deep down, you know it. But you keep holding on, hoping it's just a phase. Spoiler, it's not. They won't always say what's wrong, they won't explain, but their behavior will scream the truth. Distance is an answer, silence is a decision, coldness is clarity. Most people miss it because they're too busy asking questions, instead of reading what's already being shown. So the real question is, why do people start acting different? Is it guilt? Is it growth? Is it someone else whispering in their ear? Stay with me until the end, because the last reason will flip everything you thought you knew about people. Let's get into it. Number 1, they're not acting strange for no reason. Let's get something straight. When someone suddenly starts acting strange, it's not random. They're not just having a weird week, they're hiding something. You don't have to catch them red-handed to feel it. You know when the energy shifts. Maybe they used to text back in seconds and now, hours. Maybe they used to tell you everything and now, it's all vague answers and nervous laughs. You ask a simple question and they fumble. They over-explain or dodge it entirely. And here's the part that messes with your head. Nothing big happened. No fight, no falling out, just silence, distance, a strange vibe you can't shake. Why? Because behavior doesn't change without a reason. People don't just pull away for fun. When they start hiding, it's usually because they don't want you to see the truth. Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's shame, maybe it's something or someone they don't want to talk about. Heraclitus said, "A man's character is his fate." No matter how long someone plays pretend, their true nature will always leak out through their behavior. That fake smile, that half-hearted response, it's a cover. And covers always slip. A friend of mine, we'll call him Jake, learned this the hard way. He had a friend he trusted for years. They talked every day, shared their lives, but one day the friend changed. Cold replies, avoided topics, all the usual signs. And when Jake asked what was wrong, nothing, just busy. But it wasn't nothing. Jake later found out this friend had been talking behind his back, setting things up to benefit himself. The weird energy, the distance, the busy excuses. It was guilt trying to wear a mask. And if you're thinking, what if I'm just imagining it? You're not. Your gut is smarter than you think. It sees what your eyes try to ignore. So what do you do when someone starts acting off? First, stop chasing who they used to be. That version of them may not even exist anymore. Second, watch their actions more than their words. Anyone can say, "I care." But if they treat you like an option, believe that. And finally, don't wait for the full story to walk away. If their energy is off, that is the story. You don't need proof, you need peace. If someone's acting shady, stop lighting candles for someone who's blowing out the flame. Remember, what's done in the dark always finds its way to the light. Always. Number 2, you're not less valuable. They just stopped seeing clearly. Here's a hard pill most people don't want to swallow. Sometimes, when someone starts acting different, it's because they no longer see you as valuable. Not because you've changed, but because they did. It starts small, they stop engaging. The warmth fades, conversations feel dry, forced and awkward. They used to light up when you called, now you feel like an interruption. You sense the shift, but your mind tries to protect your heart. Maybe they're just busy, maybe it's stress. But deep down, you feel it. Here's the truth. When someone stops seeing your value, it's not always loud or cruel. Sometimes it's quiet, distant, casual neglect. Maybe they once needed your advice, your energy, your presence. But now, they've replaced it, outgrown it, or worse, taken it for granted. It's not about being not enough. It's about being used until they no longer benefit. Seneca once said, "Attach yourself to those who make you better, people who respect your time, who appreciate your presence, who don't forget your worth just because they found something new or more convenient." Let me tell you about someone, Daniel. He had a friend who used to feel like family. They did everything together. But slowly, the calls stopped. The check-ins faded. When they did talk, it felt rushed, like Daniel was a box to check off. He thought, maybe he's just overwhelmed with life. But then, Daniel saw this friend posting, going out, making time for others, just not for him. That's when it clicked. It wasn't about time, it was about priority. Daniel didn't lose value, he just lost visibility in that friend's eyes. If you're feeling this right now, ask yourself, are you chasing someone who wouldn't even notice if you stopped showing up? Are you holding space for someone who no longer holds space for you? Stop explaining away their change. Stop trying to prove your worth to someone who treats you like an option. Your value doesn't disappear just because someone stopped seeing it. You might be wondering, should I confront them? Should I ask why? You could, but often the behavior is the answer. And sometimes the most powerful move is not in asking, but in detaching. So what now? Shift your focus. Let go of people who can't see your light. Pour into those who do. And most importantly, pour into yourself. Because if someone makes you feel like you don't matter anymore, believe them. That's not your place to beg. That's your cue to walk. Your worth isn't up for debate. It's up to you. Number 3. Guilt has a funny way of showing its face, even when no one's looking. Sometimes the shift is so quiet, so strange, you don't even know what changed, just that something did. One moment they're warm, close, real. The next they're dodging you, acting distant, or weirdly too nice. You're left confused, wondering, did I do something wrong? But here's a truth most people overlook. When someone starts acting differently out of nowhere, it's often guilt, not circumstance. See, guilt has 2 masks. One is silence, the other is sweetness. Either they start avoiding you altogether, or they overcompensate with random affection, fake enthusiasm, and exaggerated kindness. Why? Because they're not at peace, not with you, but with themselves. Seneca said, "He who is guilty flees when no one pursues." That's powerful, because people think guilt needs a confrontation to exist, but it doesn't. A guilty conscience will eat away at someone, even if you never say a word. They'll pull back, or try to play perfect. Either way, they reveal their shame. Let me tell you about Lisa. She had a close friend, ride or die. They talked every day, laughed, supported each other. Then out of nowhere, her friend changed. No big argument, no obvious issue, just a shift. Cold messages, quick replies, sometimes silence, but then, oddly, bursts of forced friendliness, like the friend was trying to make up for something. Lisa later found out this friend had been talking about her behind her back. Not just gossip, real betrayal. But the guilt? It was too heavy to carry with a straight face. So her friend danced between avoiding her and pretending everything was fine. That's what guilt does. It creates imbalance. One moment, they vanish. The next, they're calling you bestie again. Not because they've made peace, but because they haven't. And every time they see your face or hear your voice, they're reminded of what they did. You might be thinking, should I confront them? Ask for the truth? But here's the thing. Guilty people often don't confess, not because they don't feel sorry, but because they can't face themselves. Their silence is a form of truth. Their behavior is the confession. So what do? You don't chase the explanation. You don't beg for the story. If someone's acting guilty, let them carry that weight. That's not your burden to fix. You didn't put the shame on them. They did that all on their own. And you don't need their apology to heal. You need clarity, and that often comes from watching how someone moves when they think you're not paying attention. Guilt isn't always loud. It doesn't always cry out, but it always shows up. So if someone in your life starts acting strange without a clear reason, trust the shift. Trust the energy, because guilt doesn't need a spotlight to leave a shadow. And when they start running from you for no reason, they're really just running from the truth. Number 4, when the shoe no longer fits, don't force the walk. One of the hardest truths to accept is this. Sometimes they didn't betray you. They didn't lie. They didn't hurt you. They just outgrew the bond. And that's why they're acting different. You'll notice it. The calls slow down. The conversations don't hit the same. The excitement that once lived between you fades into awkward silence. They're not mad. They're not distant out of spite. They're just no longer in the same place. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's painful because there's no villain in this story. No big betrayal. Just quiet distance. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? But you didn't. They're simply evolving in a direction that no longer includes you. And that stings in a very unique way. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Change is nature's delight." In other words, change is not the enemy, it's the way forward. And when someone's path starts heading in a different direction, it's not your job to pull them back. It's your cue to let them walk. Let me tell you about Ethan. He had a childhood friend, closer than brothers. They shared everything, dreams, late-night talks, plans for the future. But as they got older, Ethan grew. He explored new ideas, new environments. He evolved. But his friend? Same habits, same routines, same mindset. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't aligned anymore. Eventually, Ethan realized their conversations felt more like obligation than connection. The silence between them was louder than the laughter used to be. It wasn't anyone's fault. It was just the natural drift that comes when one person grows and the other stays rooted. Holding on started to feel like wearing clothes that no longer fit. You can wear them, sure, but you won't feel like yourself. You might wonder, should I try harder? Should I fight for it? But here's the truth. Not every connection is meant to survive every season of your life. Some are meant to walk with you for a while, teach you something, and then quietly step off your path. That doesn't make them useless. It makes them timely. So, what now? First, accept that growth sometimes requires release. It's not about hate, it's about alignment. Second, honor what you shared. Just because they're not in your future doesn't mean their place in your past wasn't real. And finally, trust life. Trust that as you grow, you will attract new connections that reflect where you are and where you're headed. You don't need to hold on to someone just because you started together. You need people who grow with you, who evolve beside you, not behind you. So when someone starts acting differently because they're growing, don't beg them to shrink. Let them go. And grow on. Number 5. Walking on eggshells. That's not a relationship, it's a silent war. There's a certain kind of change in behavior that creeps in quietly. No fight, no open conflict, just coldness where warmth used to live. They used to laugh, lean in, light up when you spoke. Now they're short, distant, checked out. You ask what's wrong, and they shrug. Nothing, I'm fine. But you know that's a lie. Here's what's really happening. They're holding on to resentment, and they don't have the courage or emotional maturity to speak it out loud. Resentment is like rust. It builds slowly. It eats away at the connection from the inside, and the longer it's left unspoken, the more damage it causes. Instead of saying what's on their mind, they let the grudge simmer. They ignore your messages, make snide remarks, become too busy for you, and smile through gritted teeth. Passive aggression becomes their language of choice. Epictetus once said, "Speak only when necessary." But here's the flip side. Silence often speaks volumes. What they're not saying is more revealing than anything they could ever put into words. Let me tell you about Sarah. She had a friend she was close with, talked every day, shared everything. Then one day, things changed. The calls slowed down. The responses turned cold. When Sarah asked, "Did I do something?" she got the classic, "No, I've just been tired." But months later, Sarah found out the truth. Her friend had been carrying resentment over a moment Sarah didn't even know was hurtful. Something unspoken, something unresolved. But instead of communicating, her friend let the bitterness grow until it shattered the friendship entirely. You might wonder, should I ask again? Should I try to fix it? Here's the truth. You cannot repair what someone refuses to reveal. You can't resolve pain they won't admit exists. And if their way of handling emotions is by shutting down and punishing you in silence, that's not your burden to carry. What can you do? Don't force the conversation. If someone wants to talk, they will. And if they don't, their silence is their answer. Watch their behavior. It tells a story, even when their mouth won't. But most importantly, don't take responsibility for their emotional cowardice. Healthy relationships are built on truth, not tension, on clarity, not confusion. If someone is angry with you and chooses not to say it, but treats you like a stranger instead, let them, because you can't fix what they won't face, and you don't have to keep walking on eggshells to protect someone else's pride. Number 6, it's not you, it's their storm. Don't take the rein. Personally, not every shift in someone's behavior is a reflection of you. Sometimes the silence, the distance, the lack of energy, it has nothing to do with what you said or didn't say. It's not rejection, it's not resentment, it's internal. When someone starts pulling away, becoming quiet, cancelling plans, or looking like they're somewhere else, even when they're right in front of you, it's easy to assume the worst. Did I mess up? Did I lose them? But here's the reality. They might be going through something they haven't told anyone about. Life doesn't always give warnings before it hits hard. Grief, anxiety, shame, financial pressure, identity crisis, fear of failure, depression. These are silent battles, and some people don't know how to put that pain into words, so they shut down. Not to punish you, but to protect themselves. Plato once said, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle." And that's the truth. Behind the cold tone or missed calls, there might be a war you can't see, and that war might be tearing them apart. Let me tell you about Jake. He noticed his best friend, Chris, changing. Less contact, weird energy. When they met up, Chris looked spaced out, like he was barely there. Jake could have reacted with hurt or anger. But instead of asking, "Why are you being like this?" he simply said, "Hey, I don't know what's going on, but I'm here if you ever want to talk." Weeks later, Chris broke down and shared what he'd been carrying. The weight was too heavy for him to share at the time. It wasn't about Jake. It was about Chris fighting something dark and personal. You might be wondering, so what do I do? Do I wait? Do I check in? Yes, but do it without pressure. Don't demand answers. Don't guilt them for pulling away. Instead, hold space. A simple message like, "I'm thinking of you." No pressure to talk. "I just want you to know I'm here," can mean the world to someone silently drowning. Here's the key. Don't take it personally. Their behavior may feel cold, but their heart might just be frozen by fear, shame, or sadness. They may not have the strength to say, "I'm not okay," so their silence speaks for them. You can't fix their pain, but you can be there. And sometimes that's all they need. So if someone you care about is acting different, don't assume it's about you. Lead with kindness. Respond with patience. And trust that when the storm passes, they'll remember who stood by them without demanding anything in return. If this spoke to you, like this video, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who needs to hear it.